Namaste and welcome to Soulful Sundays with Dr.Mitali FP Live 4:30 p.m. everybody, and a very happy Independence Day to all of y'all. And in tune with today's topic, how freedom matters to us, we are going to talk about, are you living in freedom? When it comes to freedom, I think the ability to express, the ability to live the way we want to live, this is given to us by our democracy right from the beginning. We do not have to get this right, fortunately, from anyone being blessed to live in a democratic country. And so our struggles are so much more lesser compared to so many other people living in other countries. And yet, we see the challenges of the ability to express ourselves on a day-to-day basis. And today, the science has come up with this clear understanding that if we are not expressing ourselves enough, if we are not talking enough, we are not allowing ourselves to live in the way we want to live, we are definitely going through certain kind of impact on our own mind and body by not expressing ourselves. And yet, the freedom of expression, the freedom of speech, the freedom to live the way we want to live is an innate and inborn quality of any human being. A small child, when he is born, in fact, is blessed with this ability. A mother would really understand that every cry of a child is different. When a child is hungry, the cry is different from a child who is not feeling well and has a stomachache. A child who needs just somebody to be with him is very different from a child who's just throwing a tantrum. It is even at that time when there are no words available that cry is a way in which a child expresses himself and expresses and lets his needs and wants known to the people around him. And this journey continues as we grow up and we get words and other forms of expression like body language to our own repertoire. As words increase and behaviors increase, expressions become even more dominant with all of us. So often we see that in children, what is commonly experienced is that in the same family there could be two children. One child could be someone who is very expressive, very talkative, very open about what he wants and he doesn't want. And his ability to talk and express naturally gives him what he wants. And yet there could be another child who is this quiet, subdued kind of a person and who keeps making all kind of adjustments. And as a result, very often this child grows up also, and even as a child lands up suppressing his own needs, wants and desires. किती वेळा आपण बघतो की एखादा मोठा घरातला मोठा मुलगा असेल तर त्याच्याकडनं अपेक्षा केली जाते की अरे तू मोठा आहेस, तू ऍडजस्ट कर, तू मोठा आहेस, तू अकोमोडेट कर, तू मोठा आहेस, तू समजून घे. आणि these are very small simple acts that happen in our family, but in this whole idea of तू मोठा आहेस, तू समजून घे, तू मोठी आहेस, तू ऍडजस्ट कर, we never realize that the basic expressions get suppressed. Basic wants and desires get suppressed. So many times, if two boys or two girls are born back to back with a gap of hardly 2 or 3 years, the younger one invariably lands up using all the toys, all the clothes of the elder brother or sister. How many of you have experienced something like this in your life? Most of us grew up with this experience. If there are 2 girls or 2 boys, and it was always that, of course, resources would always be a challenge, or sometimes we grow so fast, the clothes or the items could be in good condition. The relatives and parents would naturally feel that let's reuse what is available, and we land up compromising over there with our wants and desires. And this is where exactly the ability to express and our expressions start getting limited. These are small things. Even before we even understand what is happening to us, we make adjustments, or we are made to do adjustments. Some of us accept this very easily, and some of them don't even relate to this, and they just grow up not even allowing these things to affect them. And yet, some could be deeply affected, deeply traumatized, and scarred. So many times when I hear stories in my clinic, the first example is this: doctor, I never had my own clothes. I never had my own toys. All my life, I always grew using my brother or my sister's clothes or toys, or even notebooks for that matter. I don't remember having a nice, fresh textbook. Do you know what is the smell of a fresh textbook? I always miss that because I've always used somebody else's textbooks. These are words which become your deep ingrained belief systems. They could be shared laughingly, jokingly. They could come across as simple sharings. But somewhere the consciousness remembers that my ability to express, my ability to want and demand what I want was not fulfilled somewhere down the line. And it is exactly the same experience that we get as we grow up. Commonly, as parents, we see so many times that we are so enthusiastic in enrolling our children to n number of different activities. Then it could be sports, it could be games, it could be art and craft classes, it could be different kind of competitive exams. And often it has happened that the child is not interested. The child doesn't want it. Sometimes the child may not want it, but still the child would continue because he's not brave enough to put his foot down and say, I don't want it. Or sometimes, even after saying that I don't want it, a parent might want to go ahead and push that onto the child. I completely understand that the child is small and the child does not understand what is right for him and what is wrong for him. And at that time, it becomes the parent's responsibility to guide the child and get things done from him. But how do we get these things done is what we need to be sensitive for. Listen to our child. Let them speak. Let them express. If it is important that he must attend this particular class, this sport, this game, which is going to help him in the long run, it's important that we take an effort to make that connection with our child rather than saying, do it because I tell you so. There were times when generations have grown up with this, मी सांगतो म्हणून करायचंय. आम्ही म्हणतो म्हणून करायचंय. जोच तर आमच्या घरी राहताय तोच तर आम्ही सांगतो तसं वागायचंय. You do this because you are dependent on me. You do this because I am the one who is paying for all your expenses. These are words, these are sentences which many of us have heard, haven't you? Most of us have experienced something like this. How many of you have experienced this sort of a feeling or this sort of an energy where our parents would tell us, आमच्या घरी राहतोयस ना, आम्ही सांगतो तसं करायचं. जेव्हा मोठा व्हाल, जेव्हा इंडिपेंडेंट व्हाल, तेव्हा तुम्हाला पाहिजे ते करा. आत्ता आम्ही म्हणतोय ते ऐकायचं. Now these are common ways in which things are put forward. They are not meant with a bad notion, but still, I recently remember working with one of my patients who his entire childhood grew up with this sentence that because I say so, because you don't understand, because you don't know what is right. And believe me, these words were so deeply ingrained into his consciousness that he grew up to be a complete rebel. The first chance that he got to rebel against this, he took it. And every time, anytime anybody ever says anything to him which has any connotation to this because I say so, he'll make it a point to ensure that he never does that. Even now, in today's days, when his father must be somewhere like 70, 75, if his father gives him a suggestion or his father tells him something, he is from that energy, तुम्ही सांगताय ना, मग मी नाहीच करणार. That's because I'm definitely sure that the father didn't mean bad. But the father did not take a little bit of effort to connect with his son and to explain things in the right way. And therefore, naturally, a young child, a young consciousness gets scarred. The message is received completely in a wrong way. The message is understood in the wrong way. And then a need to rebel, the need to be heedless, the need to not listen and do what I want to do starts developing. Sometimes this could help, but most often what happens is that the child then goes on to become a delinquent and then goes on harming himself and the society, and sometimes taking decisions which are not supportive. Later in the life, the child could realize that I have made, as you grow up, the adult could realize that I have made some big mistakes. There was something worthwhile that my mother was telling me, or maybe my father was telling me, but I did not listen to that. At that time, I was just so rebellious and so heedless, and I have jeopardized and harmed my own growth. I myself am guilty of this. I remember in my 12th standard, my mother was so insistent that if you have to go for medical, Mitali, it is best that you take admission in 11th standard to a school. And because my maths wasn't really great guns and I used to always struggle with maths, that was the year when geography as an alternative subject had come, and I was really good in geography. I was blessed to have good teachers, and my mother herself was a geography teacher. But again, coming from this energy that I will not say do it because you say so, or because I know better, or because I would love to enjoy college and all the fun of college life. I was completely put down saying, no, I'm not going to any school anymore. I've already done 10 years of schooling and enough of it. Later down the years, I realized that this was one of the most important game changer milestones in my life. No regrets about where I am right now, about what I am doing in life. But this consciousness, this awareness definitely came at that time. That had I listened or had I heeded to what was my mother saying, there are things I could have had a better chance, and there would have been a different energy. But again, as I said, sometimes things also need to be put forward in a way that they are more receptive, and to understand whether the person that we are talking to is in rapport. We will talk a little bit about rapport towards the end of this session as to how communications need to be made. What is conscious communication? What is conscious listening, and what is conscious talking? Wherein the situation is more of a win-win situation, where both the people or the people involved in the conversation come up feeling satisfied and happy about the solution that has come up, right? Moving further down the line, as we grow up, most of us come and experience this particular aspect of our life when it comes to choosing our own careers. At that time, many times I see in my clinic where parents would come and say that we give our children complete freedom. I think all of us come from this energy of we give our children complete freedom. There is no restriction. They can do whatever they want to do. There is no stopping them about what they want to do. Is the sound breaking? So I've got a message saying the sound is breaking. Is everybody having an issue with the sound? If you just reply to me. Not that I don't know what I'm going to do about it, even if I know the sound is breaking, but still, if everybody else can hear it, just give me a thumbs up. Yeah. Connectivity is an issue nowadays, especially when it's raining outside. So yeah, coming to this aspect about we give freedom to our children to choose whatever way they want to do. My first response is no, we don't. And then it is no, doctor, we do. Yeah, our whole family is a family of engineers, and our daughter wants to be a CA. We are absolutely okay with it. We have given her all the freedom to be a CA if she wants to be a CA. And that is when I tell them, I said, is it? And tomorrow if your daughter comes and tells you that I want to be a professional dancer, or your daughter comes and tells you I want to be a bartender, are you ready to give that same freedom that you are seeing right now? Exactly. We feel that we give freedom. have you, I said, if your son comes back and says that instead of what you want me to do, I just want to be a drummer, or I just want to be a scuba driver, or I'm going to the industry to be an actor. Yeah. I'm sure as parents we would take a 360 turnaround and say, no, no, no way, you're not doing this. So first, let us be clear about what freedom are we talking about. Are we really in a position? Yes, thank you so much for all the feedbacks that you all can hear me. There could be some problems with some people, and because I got your thumbs up, I just decided to continue talking. Yeah. So when we talk of freedom, we need to understand what kind of freedom are we really talking over here? And what's the extent of freedom that we are really in a position to give somebody else? So I completely disagree with this aspect of we saying that yes, we give our children freedom. It is very limited freedom that we have give our children. Okay, you don't want to be this, then try being this, but beyond that, I don't think you have any choice. So many of my patients I have seen, if children choose careers which are completely different from what their idea of a career is, it's an absolute no-no. They would run helter-skelter from one career counselor to another career counselor, from one psychologist to another psychologist, trying to put sense into their children about freedom, about what career they need to choose. I don't want to go. I don't want to go even deeper into other issues of life where, when we talk about sexuality, I see challenges where people could be disturbed to their core, knowing that their children have a completely different preference to sexual needs. They would not understand that this could be a medical issue. This could be the way the person's psyche is made. This could be the way the person's sexual orientation is. It is a very, very difficult phase for a parent to accept, definitely. But here then, there is no freedom. And forget the parents, even the society would find it a big challenge to accept this kind of sexual preferences, which are so much more different from what the rest of the community has. And the challenges that this community face with different sexual preferences or being different could be very, very traumatizing to them. So seriously, are we living in freedom? When we come from a democratic country and we move with freedom, we have our own different challenges. And how to relate, talk, communicate if you have a family member or a member in your society or community with such kind of challenges, I don't think we as a society are equipped to deal with something like this. Even right now, just imagine, if you come to, there are tales and stories coming out every day in newspaper about the social stigma and the social ostracization that COVID positive patients are facing, that doctors are facing in the society. After working 20 hours in a day in hospitals, when they go back home, the community, the society, the building members are not ready to accept them. They are not open to allow these people to come back into the society. Surely coming out of their own place of fear, I completely understand. But we all have our limitations when it comes to giving others the freedom that they want. There have been so many stories of COVID patients not being allowed, even beaten up by their neighbors or other society members for being COVID positive, for no fault of theirs. A better understanding, better knowledge, better education, better orientation, better sensitivity is what we as a society need if we really have to live in freedom ourselves and allow people to live in freedom. The next another very important thing that I find when it comes to youth is the marriage issue. Recently, I am working with one of my patients, She has, her parents brought her home from her in-laws' house, 10 kg weight loss, diagnosed with high BP, diagnosed with thyroid problems, in utter depression and hallucinations in the night, remembering the trauma that she had to go through 3 years, in the past 3 years in her married life. And when they brought her home, they realized that what a big mistake they had done. She really liked somebody who belonged to their same caste, to their same creed, everything, nothing to object about. And still, just because this boy was not settled, even though he came from a decent family, they completely objected to this marriage, got her married into a family which was super rich, super well-to-do, and after 5 years brought their daughter back completely battered. Even when the girl tried her best to convince her parents that she really loved this boy and this was a good boy and they should make efforts to try and connect with this boy and make efforts to try and meet this boy, sometimes decisions could definitely go wrong. And I'm really surprised that in today's community, in today's world, parents or even girls expect that boys should be completely settled, they should have their own flat, they should have their own car, they should have a high bank balance. I don't get this. Then what are you going to do as a partner? If you want everything ready-made, by the time that boy has already made all that, I'm sure he's 30 plus, you're not, what are you going to do when you get married to this boy and you come into his house and his family? If everything you want is ready-made. This is something that I see so many times in the community and with parents, where this sort of a challenge, this sort of expectations are such unrealistic expectations. How do you expect that boy to be fully settled and to have that kind of a bank balance when he's also young, he's also growing up, he's also struggling in his own life? You are educated, you have your own qualifications, you have your degree. Marriage is meant to be two people coming together and trying to work it out, and not expecting that everything should be ready-made available for my daughter or for me. Seriously, I feel absolutely blessed that I had parents who were open and who could understand. I remember when I told them about Deepak, my mother first asked me what caste he belongs to, and I said, I don't know what caste he belongs to. I never asked him. And then she was okay, not really very bothered about it because they are also intercaste married. And then my father said, what does he do? So I took them to meet him and they met him. And when they found out that he earned decent enough for us to both live comfortably and to make a life together, he said, then it's for you both to help each other and create a better future for yourself. This understanding that two people come together, just like I and Mama did, just like we both together created a family, we both created a future together, and we both saw to it that there was this lovely growth that where we supported each other. It's for up to you to do this. Today I get really surprised when I see parents expecting that the to-be groom should be completely settled with a huge fat bank balance. And it's exactly sometimes the same with girls. I don't understand this mentality of wanting everything ready. So, coming back to our freedom, the pain that this girl is going through, we had to really give her treatment of more than 6 months. Homeopathic medicines, Bach flower medicines, lot of counseling, lot of therapy work, lot of healing work, so that she could come out of this trauma that she had gone through in this marriage. Hence, it becomes really very important sometimes to give our children the freedom to understand what place they come from. And very often I completely relate to parents what energy they come from. The most and the commonest thing that we all come from is, what will the world say? what will the world say? लोग क्या कहेंगे? Do you think anybody has so much time to think what you're doing, what you're saying, what is happening into our life? Just imagine, आप कितना टाइम दूसरों के बारे में सोचते हो? How much time do you think about somebody else? Hardly, no? Every day in the news there is a new scandal, there is a new scheme, there is some new TRP news happening. We follow it up for 4 days, 5 days, 1 week. Then we forget, we get back to our life. If we don't give importance to anybody in our life for more than 4 to 5 or 6 days, no matter how happening or scandalizing the news would be, max a month or so, it's been now a month or plus that Sushant Singh's mysterious death. There were initially days when we followed it every day on the news. Aaj kya hua, what is the update, what is the new thing that has come up? We all carried on with our life. There are so many things happening in this world, and we move on. And still the entire life we live feeling all the time, log kya kahenge, log kya sochenge, log ka kya mental. And in that, so many times we curb our own freedom, we curb the freedom of our own loved ones and people who really matter to us. And decisions which would matter to our loved ones are often taken so wrong, so faulty, merely thinking what would others say and what would others feel and what would the community react or respond to. Therefore, allowing our children, allowing ourselves the freedom to choose, the freedom to make the right choices is sometimes so important. And yes, I completely understand that maybe given the freedom to choose your own partner may go wrong, and still at that time one needs to respect that and choice that is made and also support it. I have some beautiful examples of parents who have gone forward, supported their children even when they have made some wrong choices, and helped them to come over those and overtide those crises. Because we stay in a community, we stay together. Just because somebody has made choices which are not acceptable to you or do not fit into your idea of right and wrong, it does not mean that it's not right. The ability to accept things which are not acceptable, the I agree to disagree is one of the most important rules in any relationship, whether it is a parent and a child relationship, a husband and a child relationship, a friend's relationship. It's so important that this remains foremost. Otherwise, very often, like this, it happened with this girl. We land up suppressing our emotions. We land up suppressing our feelings, our thoughts, not expressing it in the right way because that freedom is not given to us. And then we will slowly come to what happens when this sort of an expression is not allowed. How does the body suffer? As we go further down the line, the next important aspect comes is adult life. Challenges could be faced in this particular phase day in and day out by both men and women. It's not that challenges are faced only by women. Men also face these challenges. Often when it comes to office, often when it comes to workplace areas, men who tend to be soft, who may tend to be more understanding, who tend to be more considerate, are often taken advantage of. A lot of work burden is put on them, and they would not express or they would not speak what they want to speak. In spite of doing their best, they would not get appraisals, they would not get promotions. And somebody who's just buttered his way up to the boss could get his promotion. And at such times, it is so important to be able to stand up for your own rights. It's so important to stand up for your own self. But this doesn't come suddenly. It's so much related to the upbringing that we have brought up with. If you have lived as a child where you had to compromise on your self-respect, you had to compromise on your self-esteem for whatever reasons, it is going to shatter the self-confidence, not allowing you to come up and speak for yourself. Naturally, the fallout is anxiety, nervousness, depression, anger, a huge amount of mortification, humiliation for made to do what I'm not supposed to do, or made to put up with a huge amount of justice. These are all loads of negative emotions. When they go unexpressed, unattended, they remain inside our body's consciousness. They remain inside our cells, and our immunity eventually gets affected, further attracting a huge list of lifestyle diseases. Whether it is as simple as recurrent cough and cold, or as complex as cancer. The young generation, have you ever realized why young generation comes up with so many pimples? We always say it is related to hormones, and there is yet another reason. Often this is the generation which is growing up. This is the generation which is getting acutely aware of their own independence, their own their own ability to live in freedom. And yet they are not mature enough to take the right decisions, and experience a lot of resistance from the elders in the society, in the community, maybe from parents, grandparents, even their colleagues, or even their teachers. And that recurrent irritation, disappointment, frustration, anger that keeps building up inside the young generation is seen in the form of number of acne and boils and abscesses on the face. A face that is laden with abscesses, boils and acne. Pull that mask, and deep within you will find a lot of irritation, a lot of anger, a lot of frustration, especially at the age of growing up, where their decisions are not respected. They are challenged all the time, and there is this harboring unsatisfaction, dissatisfaction about the way their life is going, about how their freedom is being cropped from time to time. Moving further down, we spoke last time about obesity. I'm going to talk about Trisha, yet another patient of mine struggling with obesity. Trisha, after her marriage, somehow had to face a lot of challenges, especially with her husband. She was born to a man who was very abusive, physically, verbally, all the time insulting, all the time finding faults, all the time being judgmental. No matter whatever Trisha did, it was never enough, and was all the time treated as if this is, चूल आणि मूल आणि घर आणि घरातलं काम was what was expected to be done all the time. There was this endless list of guests coming in from everywhere into the house, and her job was to just ensure that everybody is well taken care of, well looked after, well fed, and that also with no gratitude. A treatment which was like, it is your job, you have to do it. किया तो उसमें क्या है, उसमें क्या बड़ा है? तुम घर की औरत हो, तुम मेरी औरत हो, तुम्हें तो ये करना ही पड़ेगा, इसीलिए तो तुमको लाया है. This is such a huge blow to a human's self-image, a huge blow to a human's self-respect and identity. It was no big surprise that Trishila suffered from fibroids and lots of bleeding problems. If you refer back to some of my earlier talks, ovaries is the seat of I. Ovaries is the seat of identity for a woman. Whenever a woman's identity gets challenged, whenever a woman's identity gets questioned, or it gets tarnished, is the time that the uterus and the ovaries get affected. Ovarian cysts, ovarian cancers, fibroids, recurrent bleeding problems, endometriosis. These could all be problems that a woman would face if she's experiencing humiliation or non-respecting behavior in her life, maybe from her own partner, maybe from her in-laws, maybe from her own parents for that matter. It's not that parents sometimes don't behave like this with their own children. I've seen people who have been treated very badly by their own parent, and even now when they are grown up and when they are actually looking after them because they are old, parents would still be very ungrateful and would treat their children as if it is your duty to look after us because we have given you birth. And these could be areas where a woman could definitely go through reproductive organ problems. And that's exactly the case when it comes to men. When when their identity gets tarnished, it gets questioned, when their honor gets wounded, they could come up with problems related to testes, related to prostate, or even the urinary problems, very common, because obviously their seminal tract passes through the sexual organs itself. So because the urinary organs and the sexual organs are very closely integrated in a male could show reproductive organ challenges, or he could show urinary organ challenges. These all could be related to issues where his I is challenged, where he finds that his self-esteem, his self-respect is not upheld. Now, these are different aspects. The last phase which I'm going to have to speak of is old age. When we come to old age, two different challenges are faced. First and foremost, one could be where because you're grown old now, because now you're dependent on us, because now you don't understand, the world is changed, so you better listen to us. This could be the attitude of the children, and parents and their opinions are not respected. They are not allowed to speak in the family. Their opinions are not upheld. And these, at such times, this kind of behavior from their own children, from their own grandchildren, could be very disturbing and could definitely affect the parents and their health, especially in their old age, when they are looking for support, they are looking for care. They have a huge amount of experience behind them, and that's the time when the best use should be made of that immense amount of 50, 60, 70, 80 years of experience of life that they have. No matter whichever part of the world you go, no matter whichever age and eons you go, life remains the same. Experiences don't change, and that is exactly why today also Gita is still valid. Today also examples of Mahabharata, Ramayana and stories of Krishna are still valid. Why do we go back to our mythology? Why do we go back to our times when still go back to those stories? Why don't we say those are stories years and thousands of years old? It's not like that. Abhi to koi Raja Maharaja ka time raha nahi hai. So why are we still learning those stories and reading those stories? But those are life stories. We have the concept of Panchatantra, where we have stories where animals are involved. And so many beautiful lessons are taught to us through animals. So even though our parents have become old, they have grayed, and it doesn't mean that they are outdated, and their freedom of expression, their freedom of speech should be curtailed and not given the due respect that they need. Rather, their experience, if we decide to learn from their experience, so many of our pitfalls could be saved. So many of things we could be able to fast track in our life. I remember one of my patients, when I was talking to him, so I asked him, I said, how are your relations with your son-in-laws? He has 2 daughters. So I said, you have 2 son-in-laws. How are your relation with them? So he said, I have such amazing relationship with my son-in-law. They both look forward to me for advice, because he's a successful businessman, and both the son-in-laws are into their own business. So they both come to me for advice, and it's great to share my experience of last 75 years of being a self-made man, when I came into the city like Mumbai, I just came with 25 rupees, and today I have a 1200 crore business, and a business that is flourishing in 3 different countries. So yes, talking from my experience, it's nice that my son-in-laws can learn from me. So you don't need to be a businessman with that amount of huge turnover I think even if your father or your mother, based on whatever experience of life they have, there's definitely a lot that they could teach us, and to be open to that advice and give them that freedom of speech and expression is so important. And then another example, which I recently submit, there is this some of those senior citizens would never realize that our children have grown up, our grandchildren have grown up, and it is so important to give them the freedom that they want and to allow them to make their own decisions and maybe respect their decisions of whatever they do. The other day, one of my patients came. He said, "My father always has this habit. No matter whatever we do, he finds a fault in that." He will immediately start saying, "हमारे भी ज़माने में ऐसा नहीं था. आमच्या वेळेस असं नव्हतं. आम्ही असं नाही करायचो. हे सगळं चुकीचं आहे. हे तुम्हाला काही कळतच नाही. तुम्ही वाटेल तसा पैसा खर्च करता. काय गरज आहे नवीन टेबल घ्यायची?" So the son said, this table that is there in our houses of your time, it's 50 years old. We wanted to have something new. So he said, no, there is no need for you. So he hoards everything. He keeps everything that is there. He doesn't allow anything to get thrown out. And no matter whatever discussion is going into the house, his first response is that you don't understand. This new generation is hopeless. You don't know anything. So senior citizens sometimes could also come from this place, could come from this energy, and it is at that time that they also need to respect and understand the ability of the new generation. Definitely you could be right, and there could be better ways of communicating to the new generation, connecting with them and making a win-win conversation with them. So that is what when it comes to freedom of expression. Now the first and the foremost important thing that we need to understand is what could be the benefits of expression? Why do we need to allow ourselves to express and others to express? And that is what is the ability to live in freedom. And only when the consciousness is allowed to express itself in its most natural way, it's allowed to be who it is, can it reach to its highest purpose and its highest goal. If there is a day-to-day struggle of trying to tussle with what is happening, with what my husband feels, what my parents feel, what this one feels, what that one feels, ye kya sochenge, wo kya sochenge, family kya sochegi, you are all the time going to be focused on small mundane things. And the main reason why you came here to fulfill the purpose of your life is just going to go waste. It's a life wasted. We don't know when we get a human birth. You are lucky to be in a human birth. You are here to be with a purpose. You are here to contribute to this world, to this community. And if you are going to get caught into this drama of life that keeps playing every now and then, your ability of expression, if it is not allowed to be there, and if you don't respect that and don't ensure that others respect that, you're never going to reach the highest goal and purpose of your life. It's always important to rise above that and look as yourself as a part of the bigger game of life. You have a choice whether you want to remain stuck into these small squabbles of life or understand that you have a greater purpose. There's a greater reason why you came to this life, and try and understand what that reason and what that purpose is. And that is the reason why allowing yourself to live in freedom, allowing yourself to express your own truth and ensuring that others also respect that is so important. Naturally, when we are living in freedom, we are expressing ourselves, we are allowed to talk, speak, share our thoughts, our ideas, our feelings. There is a better understanding about our own self also. We understand ourselves better. I know so many times when I am talking with my patients, my first consultation is a life space analysis. The first life space analysis is where I am just sitting and I am listening. I listen for about 1.5 hours and my patient is just talking. I don't interrupt. I ask relevant questions, and I'm just listening to the whole life story of my patients. And most of the time, my patients realize that they have connected their own dots. While they are talking their thoughts, they are revisiting their entire life, they are going through their life's journey. They themselves have realized what's worked, what's not worked, what is working, what is not working, where did I make mistakes, where could I have done better, what are my plus points, and what areas can I do, can I focus on more. And so the ability to express, the ability to revisit your own thoughts is so important, to have that clarity. To have that clarity. That clarity comes only with expressions. If feelings and emotions remain suppressed, it leads to complete mental confusion. It leads to indecisiveness. It leads to inability to take decisions. You're completely lost, you're confused, you're all the time looking up to other people for decisions, for solutions. You don't feel confident about what decisions you're taking. Even if you've made a decision, you're thinking 10 times, is this the right decision? So, the ability to talk, to express, gives you this crystal clarity about yourself, about who you are, what you want to do, what you're doing, whether it is right or wrong. The ability to express. Sometimes when you're angry, you speak up, you talk, you express your anger, you're disappointed, you tell the other person about your disappointment, or maybe not the other person, you just empty out. There are different ways in which expressions can happen. It allows you to feel absolutely calm. It brings you to an absolutely peaceful state of mind. When we have everything clogged inside us, there's so much restlessness, there's so much anxiety. If you see this, you're just like this random atom that is moving here and there, and just fruitlessly wasting our energy. Yes, Revati, writing on paper helps. Definitely, it does help. So, when you are in calmness, when you are peaceful, when you've spoken your truth, when you've expressed yourself, that whole agitation, that pent up energy settles down. Believe me, it takes a lot of energy to suppress negative emotions. Anger and guilt, envy and jealousy, darkest of emotions. It takes a lot of energy to put these emotions under control. You could feel exhausted, tired, loss of energy, nutritional deficiencies, chronic fatigue syndrome, if you're trying to suppress guilt, if you're trying to suppress anger, if you're trying to suppress envy or jealousy. It's better out than in. That's the rule when it comes to expressions. How to express? We will come to it shortly. So that's the most important benefit if you want to stay fit, if you want to stay healthy, if you want to stay happy. Expression is the first and foremost thing, because the immunity, the body spends tremendous amount of energy trying to hold down negative feelings and emotions. Yes, exactly as you asked, what if the other person adds to it? At that time, it is also so when it comes to expressions, we'll come to how to express, which helps us to come to a place of better expression and an expression of win-win. So I'll just come to that. Yet another important benefit is better relationships. If you are going to hold anything inside you, it's going to trouble you. The next time you are talking to somebody, to the same person, you still have that at the back of your mind, and you are referring to that, and you are speaking in reference to that, because you've not expressed it. So you're like this pressure cooker that is holding, and then one fine day you're just bursting out. Have you observed that? And then the other person is just wondering, where did this come from? I don't think I ever said anything that needed this kind of a huge expression. And then because you have bursted out, you have expressed in a way which is not healthy, and which is offending to the other person's ego also gets affected. Immediately the other person retaliates back to you in a way where the other person is like now counter reacting, and he's counter reacting in a way where he's got affected. So now his ego is hurt, or her ego is hurt. So now she or he is hitting back at you, and your ego is now hurt. So you're hitting back, and this ego fight is kind of just going on and on and on, and there's no end to it. And then whether it's a family scenario, whether it's a work scenario, whether it's friend scenario, so it's so important at that time to understand that how to express, in what way to express, and to express immediately or to express in a decent time, allowing things to stay inside, allowing things to pent up inside, and then finally getting it out is going to be magnifying it 100 times more than what it is. I think y'all can relate to that. So many times it happens. कोणीतरी आपल्याला असं पटकन म्हणतं, काय ग मूर्ख आहेस तू, काय मूर्खासारखी वागते, किती मूर्खपणा करते तू, and that person goes away and it stays in our head. मला मूर्ख म्हणाली, असं कसं मला मूर्ख म्हणाली, तिला काय माहिती मी कोण आहे, मला कशी मूर्ख म्हणते ती, तिला काय कळतं, तिला काय समजतं, स्वतः तर काय कशी वागते, तिला काय अक्कल नाही, काय नाही, मला मूर्ख म्हणाली. Have you realized I have said at least 5 to 6 times मला मूर्ख म्हणाली. ती मला एकदा मूर्ख म्हणून निघून पण गेली, and she is forgotten also. But I have got it into my head. I have said it 100 times to me. How dare she say that to me? What does she mean saying this to me? I have repeated it so many times inside my head that next time she comes in front of me, I remember only this much की ही मला मूर्ख म्हणाली, आता हिला दाखवतेच की ही किती मूर्ख आहे. So when I'm behaving with her, I might behave in a manner that is so bitchy, and the other person wouldn't even realize where is this coming from. Because that person said it once and it went. But instead of clearing it out then and there, or maybe in a day or two, you could have just picked up a call and said that you said that to me the other day and I was hurt. I didn't understand why you said this to me. Or even if you said this to me, it didn't go well with me. It would finish the matter then and there. And most of the time what we do is, we don't make that phone call, we don't make that conversation, and we make 100 different conversations in our head. The example that I spoke about, this girl that was brought home by her parents from her in-laws after a very volatile, abusive marriage. This girl has been spending days together talking into her head now for last couple of months. She couldn't speak, she couldn't retaliate, she couldn't say anything over there to her husband and her in-laws because of the environment, the atmosphere, because of her upbringing, because of her sanskars. Now, it has affected her mind so much that every day in her head she keeps telling herself this. Now I will say this, now I will reply like this, now I will talk to them like this. So, this has completely deranged your mental balance. Because there's so much of energy that's left blocked inside. So better out than in, and better out at the right time. Make it a point to express it at the right time. And coming to not just the right time, now we come to the area of how do we express. When I come to when I usually counsel couples who have these kind of differences, and this is something that even I and Deepak have tried when we have our ups and downs in our marriage, that maintain first and foremost is that when you are talking, ensure that you are in rapport. Ensure that the other person is there to listen to you. That is called as conscious communication. Listening in rapport and talking in rapport. What do I mean by that? When you are talking, ensure that the other person is there for you. Tell the other person that I need to speak to you. This is important for me. When do you think you have the time for it? Once you have made it, communicated it very clearly that this is important and I need some time and I need free time, where you are in a position to listen to me. You're establishing rapport, you're asking for time, and you're ensuring that when I am talking, the other person is fully present to me. Otherwise, often the conversations that most of us would have is, you are in the kitchen, the partner is in the living room, he is busy watching TV or he is on the mobile, and you are shouting from here. He is not at all present to you. There is no understanding of what you are speaking or saying, and there is no communication. The message is not gone across at all. One is in one room, the other is in another room, and you are just shouting on top of one another's voice. Or you are speaking, you are talking, and the partner is not in the mental frame to listen at all. He has an important business meeting, or she has an important client waiting. She needs to go to her work, and you are trying to run your tale, your story, which is important to you. It's definitely important to you, but you're not in rapport. The other person is not present for you. He's not there for you. Believe me, these are simple tips. Even my son, Harsh, would do this, because he knows that I'm busy in clinic and I have too many things in my mind, lots of things. I'm this kind of a woman who does a lot of multitasking, though nowadays I've reduced it a lot. So he knows that mom is busy and mom does a lot of multitasking, and she could have lots of things in her head. So the first thing, he'll come and he'll ask me, when do you have time for me? I need about 15 minutes of your time, or I need an hour of your time. So the moment he starts a conversation like this, I immediately understand that this is important. It is important for him. And I need to give him a time when I'm free and when I can connect with him. And once I have made this commitment to him that, okay, tomorrow that's the time I'm speaking, it becomes my responsibility to be there for him then. And if I'm not, then he could 100% ensure that this is my time, Mama. You've told me that you're going to be there for me now. So you need to be here. And I need to respect that. Naturally, this is a beginning to a good win-win situation, where what you want to say is important not just for you, but also to your listener. There's yet another beautiful trick of how to express in freedom. And that is asking the person to respond after a certain time. If you are in a conversation and if you feel that what you're going to speak right now is going to have a retaliated response, which commonly most of us know. If you know that 90% of the time the discussions that we have a certain set of going, it goes in one particular way only. Even now, day in and day out, for last 10 years, 20 years, 25 years, 30 years, you must be knowing how your arguments, how your fights go. There's a certain pattern to it. But still we keep doing the same thing. So it's so important to let the other person know that I need to speak now, and you are most welcome to come back with your response, but maybe after 6 hours, maybe after 12 hours. Give yourself time, think over it. We will connect over this again and we will talk. These are better and healthier ways of talking, communicating in consciousness, in rapport, and healthier ways of expressing, wherein we ensure that we are heard, we are listened to, we are making a conscious communication and ensuring that the other person is also there for us, and we are also there for the other person. Next, and the most important thing is, we have the right to speak what we want to speak. And equally important is that the other person has the right to speak what he wants or she wants to speak. But the one golden rule is, don't get abusive and don't get personal. Fights which starts with, you don't have any sense, you are stupid, you are arrogant, you are selfish, are personal allegations. The other person is already shut off. The other person is not listening to you. The moment you've made personal allegations of, you are selfish, you are stupid, you have no understanding, whatever that is. Your way of expression has to be with an objective of making this a win-win situation for both of you, where the self-respect of both the partners is not tarnished, is not affected. You're not humiliating your partner, and at the same time, you're not allowing your partner to humiliate you. You are equally responsible if you are not taking the step to stop your, when I say partner, it could be anybody. When I say partner, it's two people in conversation. If you don't let the other person know that stop, I am not taking this. We are here to solve a problem. We are here to discuss a problem, and we are not here to throw personal allegations at each other, blaming each other, calling names to each other. If that's the way this conversation is going to go, I refuse to take this conversation further. When you are calmer, you're in a better state of mind, when you have better words to use, you are most welcome to come back to me. Yeah, these are certain tips, these are certain ways in which healthy conversations could be initiated, and then further approaches could be tailor-made approach depending on every individual's nature, personality, their own blocks, their own problems that they bring to the table. While it comes to expressing, somebody just asked, is it okay, can we write? Yes. Talk, the best form of expression. Sometimes you can't. Write, yet another very important form of expressions. I remember when I did my SSY course, or even when we do Art of Living course, all these courses, one of the most important thing that they make you do is write. In SSY, when we go for our 7 days retreat, there's one day where we are just given to write. You're just supposed to sit and write the whole day. You're not supposed to do anything. You write, you take your lunch break, you take your breakfast break, you go for a walk, come back and sit and write your life's story again. Right? The pointers are given. Maybe you're writing on your mother, you're writing on your father, you're writing a last letter of your life, whatever it is, you're writing a thank you note to someone, but you are just writing your entire life. After putting all that you want to put on a paper, you become so much more lighter. So many times in my own patients, when they are far off, therapy work may not happen immediately, or they are still kind of getting ready for therapy work, I always tell them, at least first begin writing, at least start writing, start putting everything possible on a paper. And this exercise might be needed to be done a number of times. You might need, if there's a lot of anger, there's a lot of resentment, there's a lot of hurt, a lot of disappointment, a lot of pain that you're carrying inside you, paper writing does help, but you might need to do this a number of times. You might need to spend days, every day about an hour and half an hour, just emptying out, till the time when it comes that there's hardly anything left to empty out. And sometimes after that, if you go and speak to that person, conversation could be much more saner, much more balanced than coming from a very hostile and damaging way of talking or conversing. This can happen even in simple conversations. If you feel that you're not in a state to have a healthy conversation, write down all that you're feeling. Express your anger on your paper. Sometimes the best thing is that all the energy that's written at such times is all negative energy. It's mainly your hurt, your disappointment, your pain that you're putting on the paper. So you don't need that energy lying around in your house also. Sometimes it could be matters which are sensitive and you would not feel comfortable somebody else reading it. The best thing that I suggest is create a lovely campfire and just put that paper and burn it off. And imagine that you've really burnt out all the negativity, not the person, mind you. And for that matter, if you want, you can do that if it makes you feel good, only in the imaginary campfire. And when we do therapy work, something similar are different kind of tools and techniques that are used that help us to change the neuro-linguistic programming of our mind, that help us to change the patterns of our mind. help us to remove old beliefs that have got created. We could land up creating beliefs about ourselves where we say that I am not confident, I am not supported, I am not loved, I am alone, life is tough, nobody loves me, nobody cares for me, I'm not allowed to speak my truth. Uh, so these beliefs could and need to be removed from our consciousness, because as I always say, they are not simple words and sentences. They've become ingrained into our consciousness based on whatever upbringing that we have. Like the story that I just shared about this person who grew up with his father all the time telling him that you listen to me because I say so. So that is a belief that's happened into his head, that you listen to me because I say so. So it's come up into a negative way. So anybody who talks to him, you listen to me because I say so, is a no. It's a complete no. I am not listening to anybody who says you listen to me because I say so. And that would mean even if it's a good advice meant from a really good well-wisher, but if put into that energy, he would not take that advice and actually lose on a good opportunity or lose on something good in his life. But that's the negative belief that he's carrying, and that could need a little deeper work with a therapist or with a counselor or with a psychologist to help you out. But till then, sharing out, empty out with friends, with mentors, with well-wishers is also welcome. Maybe with seniors in the house. When you choose a mentor or you choose someone to empty out with, certain quick things that you need to remember is that make sure that the person is knowledgeable. Make sure that you trust that person's wisdom. Make sure that the person has goodwill, or he's your well-wisher and he means good to you. And in no way is he going to use the information that you give, he or she, that the information that you give to her is not going to be used back to you. So you share that bond of trust. And definitely talking to someone like that could also help in small things. Need not be that you need to go to a counselor all the time. And yet also it is important to understand the difference between when talking to just friends and relatives, it may not be enough and you might need a specialized or expert advice. And that's when you realize that you start banging into a wall, and time and again you keep repeating and going back to your same old stories of how I was a victim or how life was not fair for me. Then you realize that you've got into a pattern, you've got into a loop. And sometimes if your friends whom you turn to for help start avoiding you because now they have got tired of trying to sympathize with you and giving you a pep talk, you realize that you definitely need better help than a friend's shoulder to cry on, because there's a limit that your friend is also going to take your nonsense, even though however painful it is. You can talk to a pet, you can talk to a plant. I know a neighbor of mine lost his wife at a young age, and he brought a dog home. And his dog, we call her name is Ona. She's his biggest support system. We have seen in the last 10 to 12 years, it's been 10 years now that his wife is gone, I think. And in the last 10 years, we have seen how that relationship has developed between him and his dog. The way he talks, the way he shares with her. It's like a great companion. The loss of his wife, he got in his dog. There are times when he's angry with her also. And he will actually threaten her. मी तुला सोडून येईन, मी तुला खायला देणार नाही, मी तुला बाहेर उन्हात ठेवीन. And listening to all that, sometimes we used to feel really sad for the dog. But I realized that was his therapeutic way of healing out of his own frustrations. And really blessed are such people who can find these kind of comforts in animals, because animals have their own energy. One important thing is they only listen to us, they can't retaliate. The ability to speak, the ability to talk, and the ability to use words, good and bad, is only given to human beings. Sometimes we don't realize the importance of it. So yeah, he used the dog, and that dog has been his biggest comfort energy, one of the most important comfort energies. We saw how that dog helped him come out of his loss, out of his pain, and now it's like best of friends. So pets, plants, I know friends who, another friend of mine who has a huge garden on her terrace, her 450 square foot of terrace. That whole garden is her healing room. She calls it my healing room. She says, "This is, I don't need to go to any therapist. I don't need to go to any doctor. Me and my healing room is enough." And yes, plants, tending to gardens could be one a very beautiful way of releasing your pent up energy. Even I have a beautiful garden near my clinic. Whenever I get time, I spend some time in my garden, do some cutting, chopping, weeding, and it's so relaxing. In fact, I've seen Harsh do that too. So many times when he's tired, he's exhausted, sometimes he's not in a good mood, he'll just come to my garden with a kurpi gale and he'll start tending to all the plants. And sometimes you have to understand that chalo, this is his therapeutic way of dealing with his problems. So yes, we could all find ways of connecting with nature as the best way of healing ourselves. And sometimes some help could come in the form of reaching out to even professional helps in the form of lawyers or police. And that's not the genre of our connection now, our discussion today. But yes, and that freedom of expression should be allowed by us, to us, and even to people around us, and not go under this feeling that what will people say, and not put up with pain, misery, just because you're afraid of what people say. Fear is an integral part of all of us. All of us go through fears. All of us experience fears. To be able to overcome that fear, to be able to listen to our inner voice, connect with our inner voice, and do what is right for us is finally living in freedom. And not just taking that freedom for ourselves, but giving that freedom to all the people around us. Whether it is your partners, your children, your office staff, the staff working under you, for you, your colleagues, the society around you. And only then I feel we, not just as people, as country, as society, are in actual freedom. The freedom for expression is given to us by our constitution. How we use it in the right, mindful way, in awareness, is what is most important. So I think that's I could go on talking for another 2 hours. We really extended our talk today, way beyond 1 hour today. And I'm open for any questions if anybody has. I know many of you all were asking a lot of questions in between. So let me see if I can take up those questions, or any more questions anybody has. Please. Yes, Manish, terrace gardens are really growing nowadays, and they are such a big, beautiful way of expression. And yes, talking of gardens, expressions could be in the form of artwork, painting, photography, in the form of writing, in the form of storytelling. You could write stories, you could be writers, you could be motivational speakers. There could be different ways in which expressions could be used to give a channel, and a healthy channel, to your to expressing, talking, and bringing out your energy. Thank you, Revati. I hope I've answered your question. I know you asked me something about writing on a paper. Yes, Swati, absolutely. Things are so simple and we make it difficult. I always believe life is simple until we complicate it. It's we who complicate our life. Staying in the moment, staying in the present is so important, where sometimes we know that some conversations are not going to help. At that time, silence is golden. At time, not speaking is also so important. And because you realize that words are not needed here. Silence is also and yet another very important form of communication, and it's not needed to speak at that time. And even that silence could communicate so much. Yes, staying calm is so important, Anita. I agree with you. And simple techniques like pranayam, meditation, sudarshan kriya, mantra jap, namasmaran, these are small things that help us to stay in the present and stay calm. When we get angry, you'll realize your breathing increases, your heart rate increases. Just take a few deep breaths, you will calm down immediately. Immediately you will calm down. Yoga is yet another beautiful way of working on your tempers or on your emotions, releasing your fears and anxieties basically. Yes, chai pe charcha, Rohit, definitely. A good time to have a good charcha in the family. Suppressions definitely affect us. I think today the world has come to know that the world of meta-science is very clear that if you're going to suppress your emotions, all those emotions that left are pent up in our body, mind, are going to affect us. And whether it's heart disease, it's BP, it's obesity, it's thyroid problems, whether it is joint problems, osteoporosis. Osteoporosis is seen at a very young age nowadays. I just met a girl the other day who's 35 coming with severe osteoporosis. Again, lot of suppression of emotions, not giving healthy expression to yourself could be a way of All right, thank you so much everybody for joining me, and keep coming each time, every time to Soulful Sundays with Dr. Mitali, FP Live, 4:30 p.m. And as always, we have now also available on YouTube. All these lectures in a day or two are put up on YouTube, so you can connect there. If you feel this is important, this is useful, this is helping you, also make it a point to share it on your timeline, share it on your WhatsApp groups, or directly tag people whom you feel can be benefited by listening to these small exchanges and being a part of this beautiful energy that all of us connect together. So see till next Sunday. Stay fit, stay healthy, stay safe, and have a great time. And learn to live in freedom and independence.